It's better to give than to receive. Have you guys heard that before? And it sounds right, doesn't it? It's better to give than receive. And how come it sounds so right? To give. If we're all giving, who's receiving? If you want to experience abundance, you're going to have to learn how to receive. And that means we take a close look at these words, giving and receiving. And we learn how they are in our bodies. And I remember, I've talked to you guys before, I think about a friend of mine who's quadriplegic. I adore her, but oh my gosh, I made the biggest fool out of myself. I seem to do that with her. She's very gracious, thank God. Maybe she dropped something or needed something, I can't remember. And whatever it was, I dealt with it for her. And I looked at her and she said, thank you. And I looked at her and I said, oh yeah, it's better to give than to receive. And I said it so flippant. And as I said it, I was looking in her eyes, and she looked back in my eyes, and she breathed in, and she looked at me, and she said, yes, yes it is. And in that moment, I stopped, because it was so comfortable to give and not have to receive. And I had said that flippantly to a friend of mine who is in a position to have to receive quite often. Because as somebody who's quadriplegic, she can't pick up something, she drops on the floor. She can't get herself in bed. And I was so stupid. And thank goodness she loved me. Isn't love wonderful? So forgiving, so understanding. And I understood. Well, I didn't understand all of it, but I did stop and began to think about giving and receiving. And giving is like a doing. You know, it feels better, doesn't it? But why? It feels better to give because we've been trained to be doers. It feels better to give because then you have something and you're giving to someone else. You're not receiving. You're the one who's not needing. But who says that every receiver is in need? See, that's our first mistake. Woo. Receiving isn't needing. But did we know that? Receiving is allowing, opening, saying yes. It's so powerful. It's actually such a powerful position to be able to receive well. But we've never learned how to receive well. We've been trained to be embarrassed about receiving and to feel great about giving. And that's okay. That's what happens. In giving, we've all been trained to feel very good about giving, to have something to share, to be in a position to do that. But what happens if you've given and given and given and you haven't received? You get a little resentful about that. To give and not receive. And if you're a giver and you haven't received, and you don't know how to open to receiving, to be able to graciously receive a gift. If you don't know how to do that, let me tell you, the first thing is you don't know how to give. You think you do, but you don't. I thought I knew how to give to my friend. I thought I was making it easy. I was like, oh yeah, no biggie. Not a problem. Don't even worry about it. Flippantly saying, it's better to give than to receive. And she taught me with a look what it was like to receive from people who give flippantly. I did not know how to give because I did not understand how to receive. And that didn't make me a bad person. And that's the other thing. As we learn these things together, we don't have to dislike ourselves or not like ourselves. Feel into giving. So many times what you're giving is guilt. I have something. You don't have it. Let me give you a little bit. Just makes you want to throw up, doesn't it? To receive from someone who feels so guilty. Someone who can't even have the pleasure of enjoying what they have because they feel so guilty. So let me give you a little bit. And how does it feel to give from guilt? Because that's where we're doing it usually. We all know that feeling. How would it feel to give from pleasure? Right there is abundance. To give from pleasure. That's abundance right there. To give from guilt is a whole different thing. But there's a lot of people with a lot of money who give from guilt. It doesn't do them any good, and it doesn't do you any good to receive it. I mean, it may take care of a few things, but at the end of the day, it's not a pleasure. And I think about this one as another time, and this was pretty recent for me. I was shopping at Kohl's, I think, or something. And I walked past, I had gotten myself some shirts that I wanted that were really super soft, little t-shirts. My sister-in-law had one, and she'd showed it to me, and I was like, I want to run over there and get me some of those. So I drove over, and I found my shirts. And then I was leaving, and I was pushing my cart by this table that had all these pants on them. And that table full of pants, as I walked past it, I heard my friend's name. I swear the pair of pants went, well, I'll say her name, Gail. and I was like, what? And I looked at the pants, and I was like, and I stopped, and I thought, no, I'm going to keep going. But as I started to move, I heard, Gail. And I was like, oh my God, what the heck? So I looked back at the pants, and I thought, I wonder if these would fit my friend Gail. But I didn't know her pant size, right? And so I thought, what am I doing? But then I started to look through the different sizes, and my gut was like, go back to this pants. And this pair of pants just kept screaming her name at me. And I was like, what the heck? And it was just cracking me up. And then I realized I started digging, looking at the other sizes, trying to figure out what's the right size. And I could feel this pleasure welling up. This pleasure. And I was like, I want to get her a pair of pants. I was excited. I wanted to give her a pair of pants. And I'm like, man, I really want to get her a pair. I better find the right size. And I don't even know what her size is. And I don't know if I can call her. And then we'd be just, and it was just like, but this one pair of pants just kept screaming her name. So I looked at it. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to get another pair of pants, the exact same size as this pair of pants, so I can bring her 2 pairs of pants. And I was so excited. I was thrilled. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to give her these pants. I want to see I hope they fit. Oh my gosh, I'm so vested in that they fit and etc. And so I put them in the cart, got to the register, paid for them. They were on sale, and headed out the door. And when I saw her that evening, I said, "Hey, I got a little treat for you." And she tried on both pair of pants, and they fit perfectly. And I was so thrilled, and she was so thrilled, and she received it so well. It was like, "Oh my gosh, that was so sweet of you to think of me." And I was just like, "Yes." And I was as excited to give her those pants as she was to allow me to do that. Because see, it's the receiver who's allowing the giver. The giver thinks they're doing something, but it's the receiver who is in balance and allowing the giver. And if the giver is in balance with the pleasure of giving, what a beautiful receiving. And I was so grateful. I was so grateful when I felt the desire to give my friend a pair of pants. Because I don't know that I'd ever felt that with such awareness before. But I think it came because the week before that, I'm going to tell you another crazy story. My sister-in-law was in town, and we stopped by Biscuitville to get some breakfast biscuits for my mom and myself and her. And I went to the drive-thru, got the order, drove home with the food, and it was the wrong order. They'd given the wrong sandwiches, wasn't right. But hey, it was fine. But on the way back through, after we visited, and I think it was mine that was messed up, and I gave my little sandwich on to somebody else. I was driving back by Biscuitville, and I thought, I'm going to go tell them, because I'll tell you, I love country ham, and I wanted a country ham biscuit so bad. And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to pull in, but if I need to buy another one, fine, but I'll tell them what happened, we'll see. But they went inside, and they were like, oh yeah, let's replace your biscuit. So I was like, all right. And I was so thrilled. I was excited I had this biscuit. And then I looked out, and I saw this homeless man sitting outside. What did I feel? What did I feel? I felt guilty. Because not only had somebody in the family had enjoyed an extra biscuit, but then I had gotten my replacement biscuit for free, and I was getting ready to enjoy it. And I even had gone for something. I had told him, I said, when you make me this biscuit, I want you to make it the ultimate instead of the regular country ham, because now I'm hungrier and I want double the country ham. But I'll pay for the double because I only paid for the regular size one. Oh no, they were great. They were like, we're going to give you that biscuit for free. We're going to make it an ultimate for free. So I was like, all right. And so I got it. And then I turned around, I saw that man, and I felt guilty as hell. So what did I do? Tell me what I did. You know what I did? What did I do? It was country ham, and I love country ham, so I had to buy him a different biscuit. Because I had to have the country ham biscuit made. So I wasn't going to give that one up, but I couldn't enjoy my biscuit unless I got him a biscuit. And I bought it out of guilt. And I'm so glad I did. So then I went outside. And I walked over, actually I was driving because he had already started walking up the street. So I got in my car and I was driving. And I caught up beside of him, rolled my window down, and I said, hey, sir, would you like this biscuit for breakfast? Or, And he looked at me and he's like, no, thank you, I've already eaten. So here I am with my guilt biscuit. And the guy perfectly said, no thank you, I have already had my breakfast. So I have my guilt biscuits riding beside me with my country ham biscuit. But I felt what that felt like. And then I got to feel what it felt like to give out of joy and pleasure. Because when those little pants screamed my friend's name, I was thrilled. I was like, I want to get her these pants. And I was digging through the different sizes, not knowing what the heck I was doing, because I was like, I don't know what size it is. And every time I'd look away from those pants, it'd be like, they'd scream her name. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to get these pants. And it turned out to be the right size. And it was a beautiful, balanced fit. to give from pleasure and not guilt. But how many times do we not even enjoy what we have because we've been trained to feel guilty about these things when someone else maybe doesn't have? So there's an awareness that there needs to be a balance, but we haven't gotten the balance into our being to understand when it is beautiful to give and when it is beautiful to receive. And there are those balanced moments. And they usually come spontaneously. Had I sat longer with the country ham biscuit that I was about to have, if I'd have sat longer with that and not just instantly felt that guilt and went to relieve, I didn't go and buy that biscuit for that man. Who'd I buy that biscuit for? I bought that biscuit for me so I didn't feel guilty. And there was no reason for me to feel guilty in the first place. So at the end of it, when I tried to hand him that biscuit, I was feeding myself and getting rid of the pain that I felt about guilt. It had nothing to do with that man. But I thought it did. I thought I was doing the good thing. I thought I was doing the right thing. Because isn't it better to give than to receive? It's better to understand where you're coming from. It's better to understand that you don't have to feel guilty because you have something and someone else doesn't. Because then there's not going to ever be a moment that we can be guilt-free. If we're always waiting for everyone to equally have so that we can feel guilt-free. And then to understand the balance, because abundance is a balance. And that's how I remember it. Abundance is a balance. It's a balance between giving and receiving. And of course, when I tried to give that man that biscuit, why would he want a guilt biscuit? It was about me feeling better. Nothing to do with him. But when I gave my friend the pair of pants, they were thrilled. Because they felt my excitement and pleasure at finding these pants and how easy it was to open to receiving those pants. And you know what? I know sometimes she gets on hard times, so she probably really needed those pants. But it wasn't about, I feel guilty. I've got pants and you don't have pants, and now I've got to give you pants. And that's the only, because then I am just making myself feel better, which has nothing to do. Because who's really receiving in that situation? If I'm giving out of guilt, who's receiving? Is anybody receiving? So let's look at guilt and look at giving and look at receiving. And then how, when we receive, our feelings of less than. How did giving get to be better than and receiving get to be less than? Because that's where we're at. Giving is the good and receiving is the bad. How is that? Because when I gave my friend Gail the pants, she felt as good as I did. I don't know which one of us enjoyed it more. And it wasn't about who had and who didn't have. Very different situation than when Me and my guilt biscuit with this guy, trying to give it to him. And part of it goes back to the way that is termed. That old saying of it's better to give than to receive. No, it isn't. It's no better. It's no better to give than to receive. It's lovely to both give and receive. We're back to that infinity symbol of it extending out, giving and receiving. And what else is like that? It's breath. When you breathe in, you're receiving breath. And when you exhale, you're giving out breath. And the plants and the trees receive that exhale, and they turn that into oxygen again by breathing out to us. And everything is an exchange of giving and receiving in a balanced way, which does not see one as better than the other. It is a natural function. It can come from pleasure. It is not guilt. I'm not guilt breathing. I'm not exhaling, oh, I'm so sorry to be giving everybody my carbon dioxide. No, because the plants are turning around and they're just giving it right back. But we're doing that all the time. There's not one moment we're not in the act of giving and receiving. But we don't feel guilty about it, and we don't think proud of ourselves of it, and we're not feeling like, oh yeah, I did something good in the moment of breathing. And yet it is the exchange of life on this planet. What more can the universe give me besides breath? It is life. And it's free. And it's abundant. And it's out there for everybody. And we're all exchanging it. And that giving and receiving. And that moment when we are born and we take that first breath. And that breath is love. It's not only life, but it's love. It's the frequency of love, and we inhale it into our lungs. And the universe is saying, the very first thing we want to give you is love and life. And what do we run around here searching for all the time? Love and life. And it's free and it's abundant. And it's an exchange. And the universe said right off the bat, I want you to have it all. I want you to have the most important things. Love and life. And on top of that, the continuous giving and receiving. It wanted us to understand this is an exchange. That we're here to exchange love. We're here to exchange life. And when I understand that giving and receiving are equal, and when I understand that one is not better than the other, that receiving is a skill to allow, to open, to say, yes, I will receive this from you, and I can appreciate it and use it, and it's a pleasure to receive it from you. And when that's in balance with the giver, who is one, excited about giving it, the pleasure was from the get-go. When I wanted to find the pair of pants. I wanted to and it was hollering at me, and I didn't know if that was the right size, but I wanted to get the right size because I wanted to give those pants. And I had an experience wanting to give somebody something like that the actual pleasure of giving without guilt. Whew. And that was a gift to me. She was going to receive the pants, but I got the gift. I had not known what it was like to give out of that kind of pleasure, because most of my life I've given out of guilt. And then to get to give them to somebody and then them be like, yeah, this is awesome. That felt great. Because I could have given them to her and she'd be like, oh no, thank you. I really can't take that at this time. Or for her not to receive it. And that would have been okay. And I would have learned from that. But to receive, just feel into receiving something. When somebody wants to give you something, what is it like to receive it? Boy, doesn't it matter where they're coming from. It does, doesn't it? It matters. Their attitude on giving. Because it can be a pleasure and a joy to receive. Or you can get handed a guilt biscuit like I tried to hand that man. Thank God, he said, thanks, I'm full. Don't need any more of your guilt. Oh, man, that was embarrassing to say. But he was full, and he didn't need that. And I was the one who needed to receive. Because it's a balance. And it's not that one thing is better than the other. That is a belief and a misbelief. It's the desire to make yourself feel better. Giving is better than receiving, especially if you're feeling guilty, because this is how you make yourself feel better. But not really. Because if it had actually made me feel better, then I don't think I would have been continuously guilt-giving after that. But how many times have I given from that? Because when it's been natural, when I've been with somebody and, maybe we're getting something for lunch and I just pay for lunch and I'm like, gosh, that was great. I'm so glad I got to enjoy your company. And, oh yeah, I got dinner, no big deal. And everybody feels a different way about it when it's in balance. And if all you can do is give, 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 and then you get resentful, what happens to your giving? When you really need something, when you need something in your life and you just give, 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 but you don't know how to receive, what do? You take. You either get nothing and are resentful, or you become a taker. I deserve that. I haven't had anything. I deserve it. I want it. I should have it. And then you take. And am I going to be mad at you? No. Because I've been there. I should have things. I don't know how to receive, so I'm going to be resentful and then I'm going to take. Because that's an action. Because I like giving, because giving's better than receiving, because it's the upper hand. So if I'm going to be upper hand giver, I'm going to be an upper hand taker. Because I don't know how to receive. And if I don't know how to receive, then how am I ever going to be abundant? And I don't care about, it's not the level of money, it's nothing like that. How can I receive happiness? Which is what you want. You want that more than money. We think we want money, we think we want this, we think we want that. Because what? It'll bring us happiness, and what we want to be is happy. And guess what, people? That's free. And that means everybody can have it. Everybody can have the abundance that they're looking for, because what they're looking for is happiness. And you can have happiness. If you allow it, if you receive it. Phew, that's a hard one. And when we get stuck on giving and guilt and taking, we can't receive that happiness. So let's look at receiving. What does it take to receive? What do you have to overcome to receive? To receive happiness. What barriers do you put on it? Because can you immediately allow yourself that happiness? Or do you think, I can't have happiness until I have achieved X. I can't have happiness unless I have that perfect relationship. So here's happiness. And you could go straight for happiness, but no, I have to have that perfect relationship. So I go first to the gotta get there. And how do I get that? Gotta get to that first. And it's like instead of it being straight up into happiness, if happiness was right in front of you and you could walk right towards it, instead of doing that, you got to turn left towards a relationship before you can get to happiness. Why? Because you won't allow yourself to be happy unless you have the other things that you think that it needs to have happiness. Because you don't know how to allow yourself that. And if you don't know how to allow yourself happiness, you can't have abundance, because that's what abundance is all about. It's about being happy. I guarantee you, if you had 2 cents to your name, but you were friggin' happy as heck, you wouldn't care. And most likely you'd have more than 2 cents, because you'd be so happy that things would be coming in, and you'd be allowing, and you'd been receiving. And then, when you're receiving all that, and you're allowing it in, and you're enjoying the heck out of it, you can give it to somebody else, and you're not giving it from guilt. You're giving it from happiness and pleasure. And what happens to them? They receive it from that place. Because what they're receiving is what you're really giving. And it's not a country ham biscuit. It's guilt. Do you get it? What I tried to give that man was my guilt. And he didn't receive it. Good for him. So you got to look at what you're giving. It's not the dollars. It's not the things. But where are you giving from? Because when you give from joy and happiness and pleasure, the person receiving is receiving not only that thing, but the joy and the happiness and the pleasure. And it gives you as much to give it to them as it does for them to receive. And it doesn't have all that hink and weirdness on it. They don't have to feel less than. And that means that you can give somebody who maybe has a lot of money something that's precious to them. Maybe it's a smile. Maybe they got all the money they need. You can't give them a thing. But you can be kind, and you can love them, and you can appreciate them. You can give a compliment. And that is abundance. And that is balance. And it's not about what amount you're given, or if you're solving some problem for somebody else. Giving and receiving is a balance of life. And whether you know it or not, you're receiving all the time. Every breath is a gift and a receiving. Both to you and from you. Because when you breathe in, you're giving, you're receiving and you're giving things out. And it's happening. And nobody's keeping score. How many breaths have you had? Have you had your supply? Have you puffed out enough? It's all in balance. And it's saying, hey, nobody's keeping record of this. It's not about guilt. It's about balance. It's a joy to be breathing in with you and breathing out with you. And loving you and receiving you. And receiving. Going into understanding what it is to receive. To open yourself to what someone is presenting to you. And you know what? I've given out guilt biscuits before, and people have received them. But neither one of us had the real pleasure of giving or receiving. They were hungry, they took the biscuit. It met a need, but it wasn't the giving and receiving that we can have. But it's a pleasure. And to receive is just like that happiness. See, happiness is right in front of you, and you can have it. And there's nothing between you and happiness, because just like the universe says, hey, I love you. And the very first thing you get to do is breathe in that love. It knows that you want to be happy. And it knows when something's happened that you feel like you can't get to that happiness. Because that happens too, right? I can't be happy because I've done something bad. I can't be happy because the person I love isn't with me. I can't be happy because I'm hurting right now. Well, the universe has space for that as you approach happiness. And I add that in there because sometimes life hands us something between us and happiness. So we put blockades up ourselves by saying, oh, I've got to, when I have that perfect job, I'll be happy. That's a detour to happiness that we put in place. And sometimes life comes along and we lose somebody we love. And that puts a barrier to happiness for a bit. And life knows that. Life knows when you're grieving or you're hurting. And in that moment, life knows when you need to give and when you need to receive. The universe knows when you need, and it will give you. And in that moment, can you receive from life? Because life knows you're grieving and you're hurt. And it wants to wrap its arms around you and tell you it loves you. And it's going to be okay. It's hurting right now, but it's going to be okay. And it'll have people come in your life, and you receive and you receive and you receive during that time. And you let friends love on you. And you let life love on you. And life will love on you through the flowers, and through the rain, and through smiles. And you'll get back to happiness. And life will walk you there. It won't forsake you. It'll walk with you to that. But where life wants you to give to yourself is when you put up the obstacle. When you say, gotta have that job before I can be happy. Gotta have A, B, or C before I can be happy. That's the obstacle that you put in there to deny yourself something. You won't let you receive until it looks like what it's supposed to look like. And life says, in that case, you need to learn how to give to yourself. Let yourself go straight for happiness and find a job that makes you happy. Let yourself go straight for happiness and find somebody who makes you, have a good day that you enjoy with. Give to yourself and allow yourself to receive. It's a balance. And when life needs to carry you for a little bit, it will. because it's all in balance, and it knows when you're deeply hurting, and it will help carry you there if you allow yourself to receive, to just say, okay, take care of me right now, life, because I'm hurting. And in that moment it will. It'll show up for you. When things are in balance, they are equal. And why wouldn't we want giving and receiving to be equal? That's another question we have to ask ourselves. Why do we want to be the giver and not the receiver? Why do we fight that they're equal participants? And yet we know when we take in that breath and we exhale that we're giving and receiving with life all the time. And if life didn't give me that inhale, I wouldn't be doing a whole lot. And it's a gift, and it's free, and it's abundant. Did you work for it? Did you earn it? No. But we like to give more than receive. And why is that? Because doesn't it feel better to be the hero? But if you got to be a hero, then you need a victim. You need somebody to save. If I'm going to feel good about giving somebody a biscuit, I need somebody hungry. Turned out the guy I tried to give it to wasn't hungry. What a freaking idiot I was. Me and my little guilt biscuit that I got to take home and I ate myself later. Thing is, we don't need to create these positions for one another. The giving, the heroic giver, and the victim receiver. When the receiver has been the one given all along, allowing. The thing is in an equal world, in a balanced world, it's a pleasure to see a pair of pants and give that. I was so excited. I was thrilled. I was like, oh man, I really want these pants to work. I looked at that bag of pants for hours before she came over because I bought them at like 2 p.m. and she wasn't coming over till 6, and I kept looking at them pants and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to work out. And the first thing when she got here, I was like, try these pants on. I was thrilled. Who was really receiving or giving? That's what it's about. That's when it's equal. That's when it's in balance. When it's just as much a pleasure to receive as it is to give. There was no hero. There was nobody being saved. There was no victim. There was no lesser. There was no better. And the universe doesn't set the world up in a way for there to be a hero. That's what we do in our minds. That's what we do to each other. The things that matter the most are free. Love, happiness, peace. You can't buy them, but you can give them to yourself if you can allow yourself to receive it. So you can't give yourself happiness unless you allow yourself to be happy. You can't give yourself peace unless you allow yourself to have it. And when you can tune that in yourself, then you can know how to give and receive with others. And it's a joy to receive, to open, to allow yourself to be given to. And it's growth. Way more powerful A lot more work has to be done inside your being to receive than to give. I can give guilt biscuits all day long. Can I receive? And the reason it's hard is because we've been taught and trained that it's a lesser position to receive. And that's just bogus. It's not real. But what we've been fighting against was the guilt that people were handing us when they gave. We didn't like that. Didn't taste good. And the other part with receiving that we've been fighting is the twisting of the arm to say, I'm not going to be happy until I have that relationship. It's not, oh, once I have that relationship, I'll be happy. No. It's, I'm not going to allow myself to be happy till I have that relationship, because then I'm going to twist an arm and I'm going to have it. And what you were doing, you weren't receiving. You were pressuring to take. Because all you know how to do is give. And if all you know how to do is give, then all you know how to do is take. And you're not allowing anything until you get what you want. Or you can relax and love yourself like the universe loves you. And when you relax and love yourself the way the universe loves you, it ain't about give and take, about receiving and allowing and enjoying. Because you don't have to twist your own arm to prove that you're worthy. That you can be allowed to have. You can just enjoy it. See, abundance is abundantly all around you. But can you reach up there and take that fruit and enjoy it? Or are you twisting your arm to make sure you're worthy? Because see, the whole problem has been that you've been in that lesser position all along. And that's why you're trying to give, because it feels better to give, right? Because I feel less all the time. I feel unworthy. I feel less than. I can't have, so I'm going to give and feel better. That's the whole time. It's because all along you wanted to receive and you didn't know how. It's gotten all convoluted. So relax. If you figured out nothing, then figure out how to receive. Because again, it's just going to drip off of you giving. Figuring out and allowing yourself to receive that happiness, that joy, that love. You won't have to figure out how to give. Figure out how to receive. Allow. And to do that, we come right back to the very thing that I always talk about. Loving you. Because when you love you, when you allow yourself to love you, you're instantly abundant, happy, peaceful. And when you're in that space and you give, it's not from guilt. It's from the abundance. And when you give from abundance, it's so well and easy to be received by others. And you don't just give to those you look at as having less. You give. You give. You give like the sun gives. You give to everybody. You don't judge first. See, that's been in there too. My guilt biscuit. I judged that guy out there. Oh, he hadn't had nothing to eat. He needs this. I'm going to give him a biscuit. I'm going to feel better about myself when I give him this biscuit because I feel guilty because I've got a really good biscuit and people were nice to me and now I feel guilty and I'm going to go give him this biscuit. All of that was confusion. Because I literally had to judge that man. To give him a biscuit. I had to judge him as like, whatever, homeless, needy, having less. I have no idea. Ended up eating my own biscuit. Who needed it? I guess I needed to receive it. And it's okay. I love me. Oh, I love me. I love judgy, guilty me. See, that's what's happening in giving and receiving. A lot of judging, a lot of trying to feel better. Or you can first learn to receive your own love. Love you. And then it all comes into balance. Because then from the abundance that you feel, because when you are loved and you love you, you got all. You got it all. And from that abundance, you can give without judging, because you're giving to everybody. You're like the sun. You give and you shine on everybody. And they can't help but receive it. And they love it. And they're receiving love because that's what you're given.